Diary listeners, happy Tuesday. I'm so excited. This week, I have to apologize. I ghosted you guys last week. Lots are going on, guys, in the background. Pardon me for not being diligent about giving my own diary entries and keeping you guys in the know. That's my bad. Honestly, I've just been exhausted. But this week, I am very happy that we have an interview. We have a guest, Ilia Sterling. She works at Youth Gone Wild as well, and she is Elo Solari's partner and apprentice. So we have her on today. This is a 2-part diary entry. We are checking in with her and her progress, her initial story, which is really, really cool. And this first piece, I am calling Shooting from the Hip. There were a few contenders, but I think this is the best one out of all of them for the title. So let's shoot from the hip and listen to Ilia. Enjoy, listeners. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories begin.
He did the same thing. He was like, "Oh, let me close the window." I don't really not aggressive over here.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out some. There we go.
There you go.
So I can see you, and there we go.
I do the same
Hi,
things.
good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, whether you had downloaded it or not, invariably when I don't give myself a lot of time and I go onto Zoom, it's like, "Oh, we're updating everything now," and I'm like,
Right.
So it's fine. When you're doing these remote systems, it's just so cool that you can even do it,
Right.
You go all the way back to when we had dial up and it's like, oh yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah, there was something recently that was talking, it was like some sort of little meme, and it was like, give yourself a point for everything you hadn't done. And I was like 0 points, because it was all things like that, dial up and just, I'm like, I'm 50.
Yeah, they love to remind you that they love to remind you that you're old, that you're getting there.
Right.
The internet age definitely exacerbates it. So I need to introduce you, Ilia, right? Is that how I say it?
Ilia, yes.
Ilia.
Yeah, Ilia.
Ilia Sterling,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you also work at Youth Gone Wild.
Yes, I do. Yep.
Fantastic, Fantastic. And you are Elo's partner. I'm really excited to have you on.
Yeah, since January of 2019 is when we went all in, as we say. So,
dude, that's awesome. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys celebrate it?
We do. We celebrate it. We celebrate it outside of that day too, because it's we go January 1st. So it's kind of like, that's a great way to kind of start the year, celebrating another whole year,
That's awesome.
We met the November of 2017. So
wow. Very, very cool. Well, that was a substantial amount of time that you guys gave the relationship to go all in, I mean,
Yeah. Went through a few things as friends and stuff. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So he is apprenticing you. Are you still in that phase or have you graduated?
I mean, do you ever really graduate?
No.
I don't know. Well, and with being in Wisconsin too, it doesn't have it like 200 hours and then you get licensed or anything like that. I probably put in more than that already. It's been a year since it was September 4th was a year on skin, and it's hard to know when an apprenticeship really starts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like. In some ways, I could say that it started back in like 2010.
We'll talk about
And
that. I would love to hear about that journey because that's you personally beyond him, like before him. So
right. Yeah.
let's get into
Well,
it.
I oftentimes think about there was we just watched a movie last night too. We watched that Life of Chuck. I don't know if you've seen that yet
No.
or at all. There were a lot of people saying it was you have to watch it kind of thing,
Okay.
and it was done really well. And I think one of the producers or directors or something was Stephen King. So you can how he can move a
Mm-hmm.
story line along. Uh, and so it was kind of almost done in reverse, and it was cool. I don't want to ruin any of it for you because I don't like watching a lot of movies that are super emotional, but I'm glad that I watched it.
Oh, cool.
And um but there were aspects to it where you're you're paying attention to those little moments in your life and how they kind of build in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so oftentimes I go back to, I don't know exactly what day it was or what year or anything like that, but it was prior to 2010. And I was living in St. Cloud. I was still married and I was driving with my then husband. We were driving down the East Saint Germain or whatever, the Saint Germain, and this main strip through like the downtown area. And there was a tattoo shop that's been long gone. And I just had this question of like, how does that even work? Do people just like wake up and go, well, I got a tattoo appointment? It was so far from my idea of like,
Anything.
I had literally no clue how any of it worked. Yeah. And uh, so I was probably in my maybe late 20s. Yeah, for sure in my mid to late 20s. Probably had a couple babies by then and everything when we're just driving. And I'm like, how does that even work? And, and, and there were a bunch of times people knew I was an artist, but I didn't look the part of a tattoo artist. I still don't think I looked the part.
Me
And
neither, really.
but people were always like, are you a tattoo artist? And I'm like, why are you? You've never even seen me draw. Like, where are you even getting this from? Like, they had, I'm
They
like,
were
I'm
hoping.
in mom. Yeah, I was like in mom mode. Like, it was like so, it, it happened enough times that I'm like, why are people saying that? It's so weird.
It might be
Like,
your
it
confidence.
wasn't even,
You might have had a very, you know, a good personality for it. Just throwing that out there. Maybe you
yeah, I
had
don't know.
this like this firm grasp of self, and maybe that's what they felt. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe but well, it happened enough times that I was like, why do people say that? That's so weird. Like, and they would oftentimes too, like I was living in St. Cloud, which is very, central Minnesota. And it's not like it's Hickville or anything. It's a fairly big city. It's like 80,000 plus all the outlying areas. It's its own little metropolis. But they would be like, do you live in Minneapolis? So there was like just enough of that.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Milwaukee, so I had that big city vibe. I grew
Yeah.
up there and then I moved out to the country, so it was like I had that city and country, like, who are you? And
Yeah.
you can probably hear my weird accent. So
No. No, I mean,
that
I don't.
mid,
I mean, I'm. It's not severe. If I mean, it would have to be a lot more acute, I guess, if I were to be like, oh yeah,
a
I can
lot,
totally tell.
a lot more long O's.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Minnesota,
So
Wisconsin is very
yes,
Minnesota, Wisconsin. I got both of them.
yeah.
But uh, yeah, so that happened enough times that I was like, huh. And asking that question. And then like fast forward to like uh,
What
well,
were? Before you fast
Yeah.
forward, what were you doing with your art at that point? Because I feel like that might be another thing.
At that point, I was doing nothing.
Okay.
I wasn't doing anything. I had not drawn at all for maybe like 15 years.
Okay.
Um,
So that was very
and
prophetic because it was just
yeah,
coming out of nowhere.
yeah. I
Okay.
wasn't doing anything. I was very much in mom mode. I had my first at 23. I was married at 20. Yeah, so I was
Wow.
in that I was in that mode.
Wow.
And
I'll let you
I
fast
mean,
forward now. I'm sorry.
well, no, that's all right. I mean, because prior to that, I was like everything in high school was art. I took all of the art classes that there were. I was also in it was art and journalism,
Oh,
and I
awesome.
was the newspaper editor for 2 years and a yearbook editor my senior year. I designed our yearbook,
Wow.
the layout and everything of it. I ended
Wow.
up going to school for graphic design, so that was, you know, um, and I was very much a leader. And my art teacher was also the journalism teacher. So I was in that room, in high school. I had her in seventh grade. Um, so I knew her from seventh through 12th and beyond. We kept in
Wow.
contact after school,
Oh,
but she was very much like my first mentor, really.
yeah.
And there are a lot of art concepts and aspects and just those foundations that I learned through all those classes,
Mhm.
composition, etc., all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like being able to hone my eye that way. And so she saw something in me and she encouraged it and I kind of ran with it. And that was my thing,
Nice.
all through high school. And then when I went to college, I was double majoring for art and elementary education, but I didn't want to
Wow.
be an art elementary, I didn't want to be an elementary art teacher. There was just two separate
Yeah. Well, it's a good
things.
foundation, you
Um,
know?
yeah. But I ended up breaking up with a boyfriend from high school, immediately meeting, I actually had a come into Jesus moment, like in the first few weeks of college. And, uh, and that was what prompted that breakup. And then I met who I married at Campus Crusade for Christ. So I've kind of been
That's really
all
cool.
over the place. Um,
Yeah.
so that was a big part of my life for many years, um, and and I ended up going to I went to that state college for a while, so that was art based, and then I ended up going to the dropping out of that and going to the tech college that was right down the road so that I could have a little bit more hands on with like graphic arts and
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
all that technology and print. I ran small presses and
Nice.
learned the whole Adobe suite and got straight A's for that. You know? I
That's
loved that. I
awesome.
love the hands, and that's the thing is I love the hands on, and um, so it was good to be in that realm
Hmm.
versus being in just a bunch of classrooms. And I found
Yeah.
that at the state college, the art classes, the majority of what you were learning was actually when everybody was out on smoke breaks, and I didn't smoke. So I'd be in there learning, trying to learn, and then they would all leave, and then all of a sudden this waft of creativity and conversation was just coming in, and I'm like, I missed the whole lesson. It was outside. So that was a weird moment, but
Well, I mean, you know, and
so
that's a
so so yes, like my whole life was as an artist,
very
and I
cool.
kind of, yeah, um
So that was
I
foundational. And
think,
then you went to mom. Yeah, it's funny. It probably was just a godsend to that whisper, you know, like, oh,
yeah,
are you tattoo artist? You know, that
I
little
know
thing
it
that
was
just
super
kept being put
weird.
on you. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Like
Yeah.
that gives a lot of context as to like, I guess a lot of things. It'll probably factor into you and Elo too, because you're more formally trained in art than he is. He's trained in other aspects, formally, and but was always art,
Yeah. I mean,
interested.
he took a fair amount of art classes and stuff too, some figure drawing and things. He took,
Oh, okay.
he had an interest in all of that. So I go by Ilia. I actually, that's my chosen name. So we
Hmm.
kind of uh but my first name, my first name that it's still legally my first name is Trista.
Okay.
And so Trista. And if you take all, and my art teacher that I was talking about, that first mentor, she called me over to her desk one day and she wrote my name and then she wrote artist. And she said, "What do you notice?" And so it's all the same letters. It's just a little mixed up, which, artists are kind of like that. We're a little mixed up.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't completely change my name. I didn't want to move away from that first name. Um, but I'll answer to it, especially if people have known me for many, many years. But uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like a rebirth
And
life where we're reorganizing from that. Is that what
yeah,
spawned
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And ilia is part of your pelvis. So,
Oh,
which is like the storehouse of your creative and sexual energy kind of thing. So there
well,
you
just so
go.
you know, I mean, this is might be too much to share, but like I because of this knee issue that I've had, man, I am going through what I can only imagine what an 80-year-old is going through right now because it's all shutting down and in pain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Back, pelvis, all the hip areas are just like screaming right now. It's been
Oh yeah,
crazy.
for sure.
I have to imagine it's a trial by fire that God's preparing me for something big. I'm not sure, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Women's bodies really are. It's pretty amazing what they do. I
Hmm.
mean, just on a normal, regular basis. Like just the fact that menstruation even exists, like
Yeah.
that's a thing. Like that.
Yeah.
Now I'm 2 years. This month will be 2 years since my last cycle. I'm fully like in that crone
Yeah.
stage of menopause, and I don't think a lot of people talk about that. And
No.
then to be going through all of that and starting a career, or starting this aspect of a career where I'm like really needing to, um, focus on things. I think that's the thing too about women. I think women are naturally caregivers. They can't not be. I think that's
Yeah.
just part of our makeup.
Yeah.
And so taking that caregiver role and just being female and everything that goes on in our bodies and how they're constantly shifting and changing through all of those different cycles, and then a career, and really needing to focus and still being a mother. Like my
Yeah.
oldest is 27, but my youngest is 9. I'm still in mother role too. That's I don't give myself enough credit, and I
Probably
and I
not.
and I don't. That's something that I like. Look at all of that, and if if anything, I want to be able to be the person that, even if nobody ever talks to me, if they just kind of have an idea of what I'm doing, that they get some sort of encouragement out of it, or like they just have a sense of being seen, even if it's in like a small moment. I was walking back from the grocery store, and there's a woman that sits by the senior housing. It's 55, and I'm 5 years away from being able to be in that apartment building. You know what I mean? But there's a woman that sits out there and has her cigarette. Now she's got her little beanie on and stuff, but I walk a lot, so I walk past her often. I see her multiple times a week, and I always say hi, and I always have a short conversation. And as I was walking past her today, I started crying because I'm just like, those little moments matter. Like
Mhm.
she, like that's a little touchstone for me as much as it is, I would imagine, for her.
Yeah.
Because I could just be like, I'm in my zone, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Is that why
I'm
you
like,
invoked that name? Was just to kind of commit to, like, I don't know. You had mentioned it, the our pelvis, where our
yeah,
power kind of comes from, and it's
I
such
think,
a it's such a thing that can either
yeah,
be prisoner or empowering. Like it's
right.
one or the other, and
Or
it
both.
vacillates throughout all of our
Yeah,
life.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think it kind of came about as kind of a joke, really, too, because I was part of this pirate themed art and music festival,
How
and
cool.
kind of like on the crew of that, and uh, in kind of a joke with a friend that was in head that in charge of the whole thing. Um, I I don't even like iPhones anymore. I think they're terrible. I'm Samsung all the way. Galaxy is my jam. But at the time, that was like the technology to have was this iPhone freaking 5. Now we're on 17.
Mm-hmm.
It was an iPhone 5. And he was getting that, and I made kind of this thing where I was like, like I wanted it. And I'm like, well, if I lick it, it's mine. And so then there was, and he made a whole YouTube video about that, and like, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, if there was a donut and you licked it, then it'd be
It's
yours,
yours.
Like
Yeah.
I licked it, it's mine. You claim it. It's like this whole thing, and it kind of became, like kind of like carpe diem,
Mm-hmm.
like you lick it and it's yours. I licked the building once because I wanted to live in it, and that kind of just claiming it, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of goes along with that whole power stuff too. But so then I kind of had like this pirate name of Ilium, and I actually I went for a tarot reading, um, and the the person that I was seeing for that reading, it was customary to like say your name 3 times, and I said my name 3 times, and then she was like, she didn't know me at all, and she's like, it's not what the cards want, and I'm like, well, that's my name,
That's
and
my
she's
name.
like, and she's like, well, is there like an acronym? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So I said that, and I'm like, all right. And that was what prompted the whole rest of the reading. Well,
Oh.
and another time, I went back to that same person, and she, you know, we went right to the acronym, and she's like, I feel like there's something that's maybe a little bit like there's a feminine aspect to this that is going to come out of that,
Right.
and so then that's where Ilia came from.
Oh, I
It was
love
that
it.
that slight shift, but it was all
Right.
from tarot readings, which you know,
Interesting.
I, like we've talked a little bit with
Yeah.
my astrology and human design and all of that kind of interest,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
um, so
I would love
uh,
to, we don't have to do it right now because I'm interested in the process of like your story. And if we
yeah,
get to it, we get to it. But going from a very Christ-centered thing to, and I don't even think, I personally don't think they detach. I actually just read
hmm
a book. I think it was called Love Signs. It's an older book, but it was
hmm
reading my husband and I together because I hadn't
yeah,
touched the book since like forever ago. I haven't looked at it, but it was very on the nose between him and I, and it wasn't devoid of the recognition of Christ. In fact, the cover is like a heart with a lion and a lamb like sitting
okay,
together,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and then it just goes into all of the signs. And I've also watched the Star of Bethlehem, which is like, all the astrological things that were happening at the birth of Christ and
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
so that was very relevant. And I think that there's people at my church who are like, oh, tarot. And I'm like, it was like
Right.
a thing that like started and kind of morphed from the deck of cards, right? Like it was a progression kind of thing, but there's a lot of different things to it. And it's like everything has about as much power as you give it. So I was like, I don't really think that there's anything malicious there. I think it would be if you put all of your belief into that, then I guess it would be a
Right.
problematic kind
Right.
of thing. I was like, but it's very fun. And I was like, I think that, that is something that has been around in human understanding for a very long time. And it's how we determined a lot of things, was looking at the stars. So like, and that
Yeah.
was still fine. So I would
Yeah.
love
Well,
to
there's,
like hear about that journey too, because
yeah. Yeah.
it seems like this is
Yeah.
these are two things that you have gone along, because you also now do astrological readings and things like that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you were doing them then.
Yeah. I think I've been more formally studying astrology for probably about 15 years, and human design probably between 8 and 9 years. And I've always been interested in that kind of thing, like
Mhm.
Myers-Briggs, any kind of
Yeah,
personality test, always trying to like figure out like what is this human experience and that kind of thing. And and there is a bunch of like divination and in the Bible, and
yeah,
astrology and all of that kind of stuff. I used to write Bible studies for like 10th and 11th grade girls, so I really like dove in. But
that's awesome.
I grew up Catholic, and then and went to a Catholic school, as a little girl and everything, and it was a big deal for me. And then my mom and my parents got divorced. My mom married a non-practicing Jew, and but because his whole family, so
Yeah,
I grew up going to temple at times for family things and bar mitzvahs and all of that. And at one
nice.
point, I even told my cousin, who is now a rabbi, I'm like, I think I want to be Jewish. I really like this. And he's like, that's not how it works. And so I was like, oh, okay. But there were but I have multiple cousins who are rabbis, and so there's that aspect. Like I saw, like my grandma brought the family tree that showed who died in what concentration camp and where, like
Yeah,
all of that stuff. Like so that aspect, and then but it just like there's a little bit of a lot of things. Like I married somebody who grew up Lutheran, but then his parents were more um, like Assemblies of God, kind of more, you know, um, Pentecostal kind of stuff. And
yeah, that's an
so
intense version.
so there's a little bit of a lot of things. I went to multiple different churches. I was a janitor at a church for a while and went to, you know, lots of different kinds of uh, denominations of things or non-denominations. And, you know, uh, and then just like I had people saying, are you a tattoo artist? I had people that were saying, are you Buddhist? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're
Where's this
talking about
coming
now.
from?
But because you're saying that, now I have to go check it out.
Yep.
So
Praise God.
I have, yeah, so I have little Buddhas on things. I have a Buddha on my leg, like I have,
Yeah.
and I really see that, and I think all of that
Oh no, I froze a second. Okay.
it helps me in connecting with people. Like
Yes.
I have even in my short year of tattooing, I've had a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, with a lot of different beliefs and understandings in my chair. And I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
And I connect with all of them. And I can
Mhm.
have conversations about so many different things. And that's actually like, I would say the art part of, sometimes it probably goes back and forth, but the art part of tattooing is probably 40% of what I love about tattooing. I would say
Mhm.
60% of it is being able to like connect with people in some way.
Well, it's funny
Like
that
I
you
love,
say that because I believe that that's how it is in the service industry. I believe that
hmm
40% is actually the things that you're doing. But the majority of the reason why people come back and stay is the 60%,
yes,
that other
yeah,
part. So I
yeah,
agree wholeheartedly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
And it can be such a fine, it can be like a sketchy fine line too,
Hmm.
because it's sometimes people are sharing very personal things, and through that it can feel like there's more of a relationship there than there
Oh
really
yeah.
is, or um like I had a thought the other day where I'm like, you know what, the crappy clients that are
The
not great to
challenges
communicate, yes, the challenges
with scare
are
quotes.
are yeah, they really they really highlight how great some of those clients are, that like how
Mhm.
many different clients I've had that have come back multiple times, or if I need something will reach out to me as if I
Mhm.
am like a
Yeah.
longtime friend, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
and it's a
No, I
that
understand
aspect's a
completely.
new, yeah,
The
it's a
boundaries are hard
new,
to kind of
yeah.
see through. One of the things that I make a solid point in my career is I don't tattoo anybody after a significant loss for about a year. I need people to go
hmm
through all the stages of grief first before we can have a
yeah, yeah,
conversation. Because I feel like that's a hot time period of where you're wanting to do a lot of things, but the choices that you're going to make in that time period are going to be pretty
yeah.
volatile and emotionally based. And it's borderline
hmm
torture what we do. Like
right,
it's you're opening somebody up with pain that always happens. And I feel like unless a person is emotionally kind of sound and sated in what they're trying to do, you're going to kind of brand them with that emotional state. So, and
right,
as being the
yeah,
person that's delivering it, it can formulate more of an attachment than what you want, or it can
yeah,
just go the complete opposite way. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with it all together. I'm a tattoo artist. I want us all to be kind to each other. I want this to be balanced, and I want everybody to kind of get out of this what we're supposed to. So that to me puts a lot more on me than I feel comfortable
yeah,
with.
yeah,
So I'm like, no, I'm not. We're gonna wait. If it's good now, it'll be good then.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good thing to, I think that's a great thing to keep in mind, because and well, and every grief is a weird thing too,
Yeah.
like I think there was some sort of saying, I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was uh like a so many, it takes so many moons, for grief kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And uh and like just I think it was last night or this morning, uh, I was feeling a lot of feels, and then Elo and I had this whole conversation too today about like I don't always feel like I emote like other people, and I don't really know how to do it, and I feel, but I don't
Mhm.
really know how to like
Yeah.
emote it. And I feel, for whatever reason, I don't know, probably past trauma,
Probably that's
but I
usually
was,
most people's thing.
but I was realizing like how much I miss a friend who passed away a few years ago, and just like the conversations that we would have, or just like her presence. And I know that I've been that presence for other people, and I just was like really missing her presence, and like her smell. Like
Mm.
she'd wear different oils, and it was like there's like an amber type oil that she would wear. And I started wearing patchouli again just because it's kind of like the
Mhm.
similar, and it's just subtle, and it just makes me feel good.
Aw.
And um Otherwise, it's like lavender or whatever I do. But she had a particular scent where you just knew where she was,
Yeah.
and that she was coming, or where she was, that she was
Yeah.
there. And she was a fellow artist and a fellow projector as far as like human design goes. Um, and she felt things intensely like I did, or I do, I mean. Um, and she would emote about it. And sometimes she was just like, the state of the world is just like too much. And it would just make her kind of angry and upset, and like, why can't, just wanting to like shake the world and be like, why can't you just get along? Why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? And there were times where it was just like, oh, that's hard to listen to, but
Yeah.
but like
Like, this
being,
is too much.
yeah, but like being grateful that she at least, she was feeling, and she wanted us all to be better.
Yeah.
She wanted, and but I was missing her, because I was just missing that presence, and those little connections. And kind of to pull it back into that whole art and tattoo and all of that, she was somebody that I met through, we were hosting art nights. And so after these art nights, we would just stand out on the curb and talk about life things, like, well, after everything was done. And
Wow.
um, so I was, we were driving down that road. I had that question about, how do people do this? Do they even just like, do they just make an appointment? I don't know. Many, many years later, like, I didn't have tattoos on my brain at all. I decided I did want a tattoo, and I wanted something that was going to remind me of just the words I am. And um, and I did a lot of research just for those even two words like that, trying to figure out who I wanted to see, where I wanted to go, which shop was the best shop,
Right.
ask different questions and everything. And then just before my appointment, I ended up, nobody else will be able to see it, but uh, I
Oh,
designed
cool.
that little, it's like to describe it, it's just a triangle of kind of like stones. So
Yeah.
there's a turquoise color that's just one oval, that's I, and then the two yellow ones under it, so they're all stacked, is am, and then can, and then will. So it's just like these stacked little ovals. And turquoise was my color, yellow is power, green is growth, and blue is sky's the limit. So
Nice.
I am, can, and will. And I used that as kind of a tagline. And I had this whole thing for a while where I would like kind of like map out these manifestations and mantras using that. So I designed that just like minutes before my tattoo appointment, because I like made a tattoo appointment. And
That's
and
awesome.
I was 35, and
Okay.
I went all by myself. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing it, other than, um, I went in, and it was this little shop, and I had no idea what to expect. So I walk in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually really cute in here.
That's
And
awesome.
and tattoo artists, stereotypically how some of them can be, they're just like, oh great, who the fuck is this lady?
Yeah.
Like,
15 years ago, I was in that realm, so I know.
yeah, yeah. And so and they're like, oh my gosh. And so he had written up the little I am, and I'm like, actually, I pull up my, I was in school at the time too. I had gone back to school again for graphics design and multimedia, whatever. And I pull out my Apple computer, and I'm like, in Adobe, I'm like, I actually want this. And I explained it, and they're like, oh, she actually, and actually before that, when I came in, and they're like, what, just what? what are you? And so I'm like, me in my awkward state, like I actually walked back out the door and then came back in. I was like, oh, and
Let's start
instead
over.
of being like, oh my gosh, I was like, oh, hello.
Well, it's funny. I had a whole discussion with one of my dad's clients. He's a hairstylist. And she was just asking me some things. And I said, my challenge clients are typically engineers, but I've heard in the grapevine of tattooing that the general challenge client is typically a graphic designer. And in having done some graphic design, I'm like, I can see why that is, because it's rigorous, man. Like the amount of changing that people
Yeah.
want to do and stuff like that, and how if you're going from designing that from other people to then designing for yourself, it's
Yeah.
it's involved like that. So it's funny that
Yeah. Yeah.
that was your experience. I think
I
that's awesome.
know. Well, I mean, and
It's really well
this
done.
particular, yeah, it's held up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that particular artist he's gone on to like open up his own shop, and he works with his
Nice.
wife, and they had gone down to Florida, and now they're back in Minnesota, and they just opened up another new shop, and because they want to be close to I follow him still, but I don't know that he would know that that was me. I don't know. But that shop ended up, because I'm weird, I tried to make another appointment, and they're just like, what is up with you? You're just weird. And so they actually like blocked my number. And so I'm like, ah. And so I was like,
That's
okay, whatever.
terrible.
Yeah. And
You're not that
they're
weird.
just,
You're
well, I guess
not.
I
You
was
did
at
all the
that
work
point.
for them.
Yeah. Because I wanted something else, and I don't even remember what it was that I called about. There was a lot going on in my life too, so I don't know. But that prompted me to look around for another shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept hearing, don't go to this shop, don't go to this shop, don't, to this one particular shop. And I'm like, well, seems like I'm going to have to go to that shop.
Yeah.
And so I went there, and I had again came in with a design that I put together that was supposed to be kind of like a ripple, like a little
Mm-hmm.
ripple effect. And now that I know what I know about tattoo, I would have just needed to change it a little bit so there was a better spacing. Otherwise, it was going to end up just bleeding altogether. And that's really
Yeah.
all that needed to be changed with it. But I didn't know that at the time. So the person that he's like, well, I'm going to have to go, I'm going to have to go
Change
work on
this.
this a little bit and come right back. Well, in that time frame when he did that, I look down and I see this like earring it's like a gauged, a stretched ear, little woundy earring. Is
Yeah.
like
Plug.
acrylic or something. And I said, I looked down at it in this case, and I'm like, just put that on my arm. And he's like, all right. Because the whole point of what I was going for was like this. I needed this, I wanted it to represent like abundance, like that ripple effect of how it just
Yeah.
expands. And this had like a certain amount of unwinding to it, unwinding, abundance, expansion. And it looks
Yeah.
kind of a little bit like a triangle again, and a little bit like a G, like God, gravity,
Yeah.
that something grounded like that. So I'm like,
Right.
put that on my arm. Well, in that time frame of that tattoo, I started a conversation with that person, and we were both from Milwaukee, and we were in central Minnesota. So we had a connection there, and started talking about artist community and what my vision was and what my vision still is about having a place where artists can go and hang out and do things and be artists and like
Right.
have that community. And um, so we had a great conversation around that. And he just was like, where have you been? Kind of like,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm feeling
and,
this.
and yeah, and I had some different connections with some different people at that time. And where there was, drawing multiple times a week and all that. Well, so after that tattoo, I go to make another tattoo appointment with him for something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, of course, I was like the challenge client with, can we fit, 500 pounds of crap in a 5-gallon pail of this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And, but
I'm
still
great with
paid.
those clients.
I know.
I'm usually the one that can do it. My friends are like, Amy, I can't with this one. You're going to have to take it. We need you, man. Like, and
Right.
they're like, I don't even understand how you're able to do it. I'm like, I don't know either, man. Like, I don't like to say no until I know. Like, I'm like, sure,
Right.
let's explore it all. I'll take like doc sheets of like explanations and I'll take
the
like,
whole story.
Yeah, a whole PowerPoint presentation for your tattoo. I'm down. Sure.
Oh my gosh. Do it.
I'll do it. I will. I
know,
don't.
and I've seen your work and that you make it happen, in a great way. So
I don't even know. I just don't like to say no because, like for me in art, it's like, okay, this is a challenge. Like, that's why I call it a challenge, is that like,
yeah,
this person, all of these things matter, like, and when you accept God and you accept this great thing, to your point about walking down the street and the lady and, everything that we've talked about has had meaning. It's all these points in your life.
Yeah.
So that's how my life has been. And when people pull out images and things like that matter, for me, I don't want to cachet them until I know it just absolutely won't work, or it's gonna, but usually I can figure out a way that it works. And for me as an artist, that's like awesome, because I'm like, okay, here's this thing that on its face just is chaos, but like, this is life. This is how life is. If I'm to connect with the divine creation of things, I'm stepping into this space where I gotta figure it out. Like, this is something where I'm kind of given this little piece of like, okay, let's put all this together and make something beautiful. And I think that's me. Just, I always call it the God sense, like just kind of, it's not me, it's not my client. It's like everything kind of in this bubble of creation where I'm just, it's meditative movement, but like trying to take it all together. And for me, it's worth exploring, because I think it matters to me and it matters to my client, and they're not going to be able to let it go until I do.
Right.
And
I think, I think as a creative mind too, you can start to see the patterns. Like you see, like, okay, you've got, you want this, and this, that all seem like they're separate in parts of different things, but then actually this and this goes together and this goes together. And, you start to see the pattern, and you can kind of not necessarily just consolidate, but like, there, it's not like a Rubik's Cube, but like more of even like those weird things with the balls, and they go like it has all those pieces, all those pieces, and it like you can spread it out, and it's like looks like it's all this stuff, and you go like this, and it all just comes together, and it's kind of that type of thing. I think there's Steve Jobs has there's a quote where he's like, creative people are just, I mean, in essence, it's just creative people are just, connecting the dots. And that's kind of that kind of thing too.
No, you're right. I get along well with anybody in the intelligence community that has like, they've been trained to have pattern recognition, kind of for a different reason. But like, they're like, yeah, Amy, you got that pattern recognition thing, which is probably why when you came in with your ripple and you look down and you see this plug where you're like, actually, that's perfect. That does it all. Like,
and then fast forward, like after Elo and I had been together for like years already, all of a sudden I'm laying there next to him, and I'm like, he on one side of his chest, he has like a Mayan calendar type of design that he that he put together. He designed it. And
Mhm.
there is a shape in there that is almost identical. And we got those years apart. And
Wow. That's
yeah, so it was
really
just like
cool.
that. Yeah.
That weird
So in
synchronicity.
that weird little moment when I chose that instead, and then that's what
Wow.
happened, and then it like made that little connection. And we've had all kinds of weird little things like that. Like he grew up near a road that's Arista, which is very
Wow,
close to
Trista.
Trista, and
Wow.
yeah,
That's cool.
but all kinds of little things like that are like matching beauty marks in their
Yeah.
distance and stuff like that. Um, but that tattoo, that conversation made another appointment, and then that person called and said that they were going to need to reschedule because they were opening up their own shop,
Oh.
and that shop ended up being almost directly across the street from that spot where I said, what do people do? Just wake up one day and they have an appointment? It was like it was
Wow.
on the same road, almost. There's like the main road and then an off road. And it was like, this is where that old tattoo shop was, and this is where the new shop was.
Whoa.
And um, so I went there for that bigger tattoo, which was like, you know, 4 hours of conversation and this new shop, and it was huge, a huge shop that he had looked at two different locations, and the other one was in like a strip mall that would have just been like your regular run of the mill, another tattoo shop in a strip mall kind of a
Right.
thing.
Right.
And this place was in an old brick building that was a historical building. It used to be a hotel. There were apartments upstairs, and it was an entertainment hotel. And there was had at one time had a bowling alley downstairs. So that's where it was. So you went down these
Wow.
stairs and down some more stairs, and way in the back you could still see bowling alley flooring sticking
Wow.
out from underneath some subfloor, and it was a huge location. It had this whole lobby and like a parlor waiting area with a huge amount of space, multiple ends for each artist that were like their own little closed room, really. I mean, they weren't closed, there were no doors,
Right.
so it was all open. And then a 2,000 square foot art gallery past all of that, and then more rooms.
Wow.
So I'm sitting, yeah, so we're having the conversation, and art community, etc. And so now he's got this huge space, and there was just him and one other artist that were there. And so he offered me, he's like, you know what, why don't you use that back room as an art studio? Because I had been painting at that time, and I was doing a
Oh.
lot of large abstract art, um, to emote.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Uh, so that's what kind of started me being on a regular basis in a location that was a tattoo shop, and um,
Wow.
and then and not very long after being there for that, he so when does your apprenticeship start? Did it start at that question? Did it start at people saying, "Hey, are you a tattoo artist?" Did it
Right.
start when you took a big chunk of papers, set it down in front of me, and it's the history of tattoo and body modification and all this stuff. He's like, here, if you're going to be here, you need to look at this. And I poured over it and I
Yeah.
paid a lot of attention. And then not long after that, he was like, here, go on Instagram and look up this artist and this artist and this artist and this artist. And I was painting. I wasn't, I,
Right.
I didn't say, hey, can I have an apprenticeship? Hey, can I learn how to tattoo?
Right.
Nothing,
Right.
you know,
Well, you
but here
recognize
I
that you had
was,
a passion.
yeah. But
Yeah.
here I was like looking at all of these, like, you know, at the time, like big name tattoo artists and styles that he appreciated, um, and and I started to like really appreciate it and really love it, and like he'd share different music styles that I hadn't ever heard of and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
um, so when does your apprenticeship start?
Well, I mean,
And all of those little stories and things that go along. And I mean, and
yeah.
that was 2012.
Okay.
So,
Well, do you remember any of the artists that he gave you to look at specifically?
um, uh, it was like, I've moved so far from those styles that it's like I've forgotten the names, but if I saw them, I'd be like, oh yeah, I knew that from then. And oh yeah, I knew that from
Yeah.
then. Because
Yeah.
I've moved on to different styles and different people that I appreciate and stuff. And
Well, I
like,
know Tattoo Society magazine was pretty like poppin' back then, and
mhm.
from what I remember, and there were people like Jeff Ensminger and Joshua Carlton, rest in peace, great sir. And he
Yeah.
was
And I
doing a
think
very
it
painterly
was even,
style.
yeah, it was even before that kind of thing. I mean, of course, like Guy Atchison, that kind of stuff, but
Yes.
like Nick,
Nick
I think
Baxter. Nick
I feel like
Baxter.
something with the H. I'm
Nick
gonna miss.
Nick
I'm gonna fail my
Nico
tat.
Horatato.
Yes,
Maybe? Yes.
that was it.
No, no,
I'm gonna
no, it's
fail
okay.
my tattoo quiz
No, I'm
of
very,
history.
very, it's not, this isn't a pass or fail, because let me tell you, I've been in this industry for a while. I did not
Yeah,
get the whole history of tattooing thing when I came in. So it was very much so just like, I think, I mean, from what I remember, it was like, okay, we don't really like your personality. We're gonna take all this time to like get your ego down, or like
yeah,
put you in
yeah.
alignment with where you should be, kid, because you're way up here and we need to snap you down. So
Uh-huh.
so for me it was always like, you don't even know who you're talking to, and I was guilted into all of that. But these people that you're talking about, I was actually put in alignment with them because a lot of them are East Coast, and we actually went to events where they were, and these people
Gotcha.
were
Yeah,
coming up
yeah.
to me and saying, "Oh, we like your art," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." And meanwhile, the people I was around were like, "You don't even know who that is, do you?" And I'm like, "I know," and they would just
Right.
get so angry at me because I didn't know and I didn't care, and I was like you, I just wanted to be with other artists and make cool things
Yep.
and be in
Yeah.
this weird, so there is no
Right.
test,
It's
and
just,
names for me are hard. Like, I remember the
yeah.
art, I'll remember the story
Yep.
of you, like if we hang out and we have a moment, then the connection will build. But
Exactly.
beyond
Well, and
that,
it's
it's
like
like
there's such a I was coming at everything with just such an intense curiosity,
yeah.
just like at that, that moment of that was just curiosity of like, how do people do,
Yes.
coming at things from that curiosity and almost like a level of playfulness. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was I was very goofy in it. And it was like, and I think that was what was kind of a
A
you know,
blessing.
a breath of yeah,
Yeah.
a breath of fresh air. It was just I was like, when I asked questions, because I was started to just pay attention, like
Mm-hmm.
I was there to kind of just be there and to have that space and to paint and to like I started to create because of the graphic design. I started to
Right.
create little flyers and whatever, um and because I was there for many years,
Oh, that's awesome.
doing different things, and I was there for a while, and then I had to go and get a real job because I couldn't just be keep painting all the time, and I had to leave, and then things changed so that there was actually a front desk person. So then I,
Yeah,
was
it didn't need to
actually
be there.
hired for that.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I was actually hired for that, like,
That's great.
because prior to that, I was doing things, but I
Yeah,
wasn't on a
official.
payroll. I was
Right.
just there.
Right.
Um, but the shop had grown enough that there could be a payroll. Um, and I realized like how much I was loving the artists, I was loving the clients, I was loving the process, I was asking questions, I was like, what the frick is a mag? You know,
Yeah.
because I was doing inventory. I was learning enough about the process that once we did have like a full house, I would go in and like, hey, do you guys need anything from the back? And
Right.
I knew what things were, I knew where they were, I knew
Yeah.
why they needed them, I knew what they did. And it was like once I actually stepped into the part where I was actually tattooing, it wasn't like it was totally new to
New.
me.
Hmm.
It was more about, oh, okay, so these two numbers are the gauge and these two like I
Yeah.
was learning the details of things. I
Yeah.
wasn't learning like, what do you do with this, what's that for, how's that going,
Yeah. Yeah.
I already had an understanding, and I had been given the opportunity to take care of a lot of things, like I said, like inventory, and like buying, just straight up ordering our aftercare or organizing this or
Right.
advertising this. And I
Right
was
on.
doing everything,
Yeah.
but
You were the background
tattooing.
support.
Yeah, I was going to Chamber of Commerce. I was,
Yeah. Oh, that's
for
awesome.
different meetings. I was I was a walking billboard, uh, and represented the shop.
That's awesome.
And we had hosted art nights, and we were part of the art crawl, and we had events, and I had my because we had that gallery, we had artists that were constantly being a part of different things that were not tattoo artists. They were other, types of artists in the community. And outside of the shop, I was live painting and showing my art in like libraries and civic centers and all kinds of different
Nice.
stuff. And I still wasn't drawing.
Yeah, I hear
Like
you.
when I would sit at art night, I was drawing eyeballs, and then I was being made fun of. Oh, there goes another eyeball, always drawing the eyes, always trying the eyes. And because that was my
Eyes are
go-to
really
thing
fun to
since
draw.
they are, and that was my go-to thing since high school, but I was being
Hmm.
made fun of. And uh, so I had built all of that, and that's I had found myself working that front desk, absolutely loving it, finally being in a position that I was actually getting paid for, even though not very much comparatively
Right.
speaking to everything else that was going on. I loved my job. I was happy
Oh,
to be there. And I I felt like I was in a very good flow. I was taking care of a lot. I felt like I was in my leadership. And then I found myself pregnant and at 40. And uh and I stayed on there until I was far into my pregnancy and needed to focus on that. And I was a single mom, straight out the gate, having no idea
wow.
how any of that was going to work. And then and then my kiddo was about a year, um, and I was at home. I was very, I wasn't sleeping because this kid didn't sleep. So I was
Yeah.
on YouTube, and one thing led to another, which led to another, which led me to that Facebook group that Elo has talked about how we met.
Wow.
And so, of course, we had art in common, and we had tattoo in common, and um, artist community. I was very much at that time trying to express to other people, if now I have all of these people in this other community all over the world, and I'm like, if we got together, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And everybody was just like, what are you even talking about? What? I don't understand. Why are you so weird?
You're not weird.
And
In fact, I told Elo that if you guys can make it out there in Massachusetts, the
yeah,
Paradise Artist Gathering, it's happening 2026, the next one in October. So right around this time frame, early October. If you guys can make it out next year,
yeah.
I
Well, I
highly
think that's the
recommend it.
thing is you gotta find your people. If you're speaking to people who don't understand your language, you're not going to be understood. And
Correct.
that's what I found myself doing at that time was just like I was seeing patterns, I was seeing
Yeah.
possibilities, but people I
Weren't
was
connecting it the
20
same.
I was 20 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And really I was even 20 steps ahead when I had that first conversation with that person about artist community. And
Right.
instead of the strip mall, it was this space that's still
Yeah.
going, has created that.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
um and so I had all of that um when I met Elo, and I was like, to me, I was feeling like just come out, just I have all of this
Yeah.
to show you and to offer. I want to
Yeah.
share this with you. I think I would love to partner with you with all of this.
That's
And
awesome.
um and at that time, um there hadn't been any apprentices, and he was not going to take any, and then all of a sudden two other apprentices like swooped in right in that same time frame, people that had been left in the wings for years, all of a sudden now were going to be apprentices. And so then that bumped Elo to basically third in that
Oh,
rank. And so, but it literally was like all at the exact same time. Like I had the conversation with the shop owner about Elo, and then all of a sudden it was like he decided to like take on these two other people. So the timing was just
wow. Wow.
crazy, and um, then you know then fill in the rest of that story about him coming in, and
Hmm.
I still introduced him to this artist who's great artist community. There's people that he's still friends with that are because of all of that time
That's
frame and
amazing.
everything, and the people that he met and stuff. And but because of how things went, uh, I lost that entire everything that I built. I lost, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. And I still haven't been able to find it again.
Hmm.
And that's all that I want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, that's all that I plan on building.
Yeah.
And um, so sometimes it gets super frustrating because now I'm in like this different role where I'm tattooing, and I just sometimes I feel like I'm just hitting a wall.
Yeah.
And um,
Yeah.
because I'm like it's like building a mansion on sand, and then
I was just thinking of like, walking through mud, like it's
yeah,
just the steps are so hard and like, you get stuck half the time and you gotta make sure your boots don't come off.
yeah.
Yeah, it feels
So
like
it's
that.
that, yeah, because
Hmm.
it, as like that crone stage and everything, like I still envision myself as being this crazy old lady, much like my friend was. This crazy old lady with her long flowing gray hair that you can smell when she comes and you can smell when she leaves, and because her
Oh.
presence was there and her creativity was there and her life was there. I'm
Oh.
I still envision myself as being the mother of many, even though I
Yeah.
have five kids,
Yeah.
the mother of many,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
instilling, much like my mentor took, that um, in seventh grade, took me under her wing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. I have
that,
the same feeling. I completely understand. And I'm not a mother of anyone technically. I chose not to be a parent in that way, but you know, I do agree. As a woman, you have that nurturing spirit no
you,
matter what.
you do
And you gotta find out your way that you're gonna,
glitch
parcel
out.
it out. Yeah, exactly. But no,
Yeah.
same thing. That's kind of what I'm aiming to build. And who knows what this connection might be, because
Right.
I've had the
Yeah.
benefit of a family building that has been gifted to me to create this
Mm,
space where art's made, taught, sold,
yeah.
everything. So who knows
Yeah.
what might pop off.
Yeah.
But I do feel like God is moving things around for us. It sounds like it's
Yes.
been very synchronistic for you. And
Yeah.
this whole connection, all of it, like I'm just letting go and letting God, but it always moves so much slower than you want it to
Right.
be. And I
Yeah.
think that that's like just the thing that, God's like, oh, if you want to be patient, I'm going to make you wait. If you want to be strong,
Right.
I'm going to give you pain, and I'm going to give you suffering and
Yeah.
reasons to be
I
strong.
know. You got to be, it's like, you got to be careful what you pray for, like,
Mhm.
I think at one
Yes.
point I like prayed for discernment. Well, then I was
Oh,
faced
yeah,
with
that's a big
all,
one.
yeah, faced with all of these situations where I had to like really figure out what was what and stuff, like all
Mhm.
those different things. Um, and
Even we have a similar person in our, well, she was my therapist, but she died in 2018. And what you described, long flowing hair.
yeah, yeah,
She had this amazing, like, just when you walked into her space, it was all fashioned the way that she had it. And when you stepped into her world, you felt like you were fully taking a break away from
yes,
everything else. And you had permission to
exactly.
just be. And she just
Mm-hmm.
invited you into that space. And she's like, oh, do you want a cup of tea? You can take off your shoes. Like,
Yes,
let's hang
yeah.
out. And she was just a perpetual smile, like just,
Mm-hmm.
and very intuitive, came to therapy, and that very late in life, from what I gathered, I met her when she was well in it, but just an amazing person. And yes, very formative, like that person that, like,
Yeah.
I felt you when you were like, starting to really feel it and tear up, because there's so many moments with her that were like that. And that I
Mm-hmm.
know I wouldn't have been able to survive. Like my life, I can't
Right.
even remove her from it, because I can't
Yeah.
think of not having met her and experiencing all of that. She saved so much. So I totally understand. And that feeling of missing them, and, but
Yeah.
I also smile a lot, because I know what she'd say, like I know, like
Oh,
when,
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
like,
And that's where that presence is really still there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and
yeah,
like I've heard about people that have like, you know, they randomly smell cigarette smoke, or they randomly smell like a perfume or something like
yep,
that. And it sometimes it feels so close, it
yep.
feels like she's just right there. And like I've had weird stuff too. Like I went out the back door of the apartment building, and something fell to the ground, and it was a rock. And I look up and I'm like thinking, oh, I knew that there was a little girl that lived on the third floor and their window was always cracked open. Did she throw something out there or whatever?
Right.
And this rock falls to the ground. And then I look up and there's a crow up there peeking down. And I'm like, hey, hey, crow.
Hey,
And
dude.
she very much was like crows. She's like, I'm gonna come back
Wow.
as a crow kind of thing. And that kind of witchy vibe of with
Yeah,
their crows
yeah.
and stuff. And so then that falls and I see the crow and I'm like, of course. And I look down in the concrete is KAT. That's her, and that's her name sketched
Wow.
into the concrete. So you know
Whoa. That's
things
big.
things like that. And
That's very
or
interesting.
I all kinds of crazy stories of that kind of thing over where it's like it really makes you wonder, uh are do we have multiple realities all at the same time? If we are eternal, is that, that how it plays out? And like, what does
Right.
it, what do we really know? But, and we don't. And,
No.
and maybe we never really will. And that movie last night was very interesting too. There was a part in it where this teacher takes this little boy and puts her hands on each side of his head, and she's like, what is in there? What's between my hands? And he's like, my brain, and she's like, just she had just read like a Walt Whitman uh poem, and it was talking about like you contain multitudes. And it
Yeah.
was just like she went through this whole thing. She was just like, every person that you meet, every person that you even imagine, every situation, everything is like you have your own universe
Mm-hmm.
between my hands, you know. And it's like that same thing of there's a different version of us in each person that you meet,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, and not only that,
and
we plant those seeds too. Like you said,
right,
I think of her, and then I also think how I am that to other people, And so
yes,
it's at her name was Alex, my
hmm
white-haired, long-haired. I don't know if I
hmm
would, I guess she was weird enough to be that, that person for other people. Probably definitely weird. But like she, but like her daughter read at her celebration of life this thing where she said that my mom was, she said something about being a lotus opening up perpetually, and how when
mm,
she died, all these petals of light like went out and
mm,
like, settled. And she
yeah,
felt her mom and her like that lotus was still opening up and, expanding. So
hmm
I think it's exactly true. Like, I mean, we're all connected. We're all,
right,
kind of made of the same stuff in a big
yeah,
way. But yeah, like I don't think we're meant to understand
stardust.
it. I think we're supposed to learn to trust. And, as people that, very much so with artists, we have a particular faith that's very engineered towards putting that to visual representations or expressions through this, but we kind of teach people to trust in a very specific way that is very formulated
hmm
in play and like these moments where you kind of take a break from everything that's serious and like, let's see what comes out, and
right,
give people
yeah,
permission to do that. But like learning to trust those things and really sit in those spaces without any attachment, without any whatever anybody else expects. I feel like tattooing specifically is that's what I really liked about it, was that I came from an illustrational realm, which, is a
hmm
little bit less, in your face than marketing and advertising, but it still has to convey a story. And what I really
right,
liked about tattooing was it was taking all of that stuff and specifically giving that attention to this one person's story, this one moment
hmm
where when somebody looks at it, it's supposed to convey all those things, in one image, which I prefer because illustration was a little too repetitive for me. Like, I have to really get into the story and these characters, and then I gotta like have them enact this whole thing. And I was like, this is a lot. Like, I just want to do one art piece. And
yeah. Well, in many ways, there's similarities with that and like graphic design, like
mm-hmm,
logos, like
yes.
graphic design can be a lot of different things.
Oh
And
yeah.
like, but like that logo aspect of like being able to take something that's an entire company and what that
Yes.
company and what they're trying to portray, and then you like boil it
Yes.
down to the least common denominator, you
Yes.
know,
Well, and it's
and
because
be
so many people have to understand, like
exactly,
it
yeah.
has to hit so many people. But what I liked about tattooing was I think it has to be beautiful. It has to be well received because, you know, you as a person want to be well received. If you're, I mean,
Right.
hopefully it depends on what you're looking for. Like I met one guy who was like, do I have to get fuck off put on my head? Because when I got tattoos, it meant you were scary and not to talk to me. And now I got grandmas coming up to me, grabbing me, asking questions. I'm mad about this. Like, what do I have to get? And I'm like, well, yeah, dude, I'm sorry. Sorry. It's kind of formulated more into a common culture thing. I'm sorry to hear that was what you were going for, but I
which is such an interesting thing, like to see like the last 15-20 years of
yeah.
how things have shifted. And when I was 30, I got my nose pierced, and people were getting fired for getting their nose
Yeah.
pierced. In my community, that was like a big deal,
Oh, yeah.
or the churches that I was going to at that time. If you were that, it was you were all of a sudden, you were like
Now
marked.
apparently
And
there's a whole nose theory amongst conservatives where if you have a septum piercing, you're just automatically crazy. And I'm like, oh, whoa.
yeah, it's
whoa.
but now, like, there were a lot of people that like looked down their nose at me when I started doing, like piercing my nose, for crying out loud, or getting third holes in my ears. And that was like, whoa, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, you don't have any idea who I'm hanging out with.
Right.
And like,
how much this can scale.
I am super boring compared
I'm
to
vanilla.
like other people. And
Yeah.
I didn't always feel like I'm like, I don't feel like I fit in. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have 11 tattoos, and that's nothing compared to this person and this person around me. I feel like I'm just boring little plain Jane over here. You know what I mean? But then, so it was a weird transition too, to be in that two different communities for a minute like that, where, oh my gosh. And now some of those friends are like, they've gotten tattoos, or I get random text messages like, who do you suggest in this town? And who do you suggest in that town? And
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
remember when I was a complete heathen to you? But okay, I don't say that. I just go, you should go here, you should go there, tell them I sent you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
wonderful.
an interesting thing too. Like, when I do look at the tattoos that I have, I'm like, okay, this person went on to, I knew them when they were 2 years in, and then they've gone on to like build their own shop, and they worked with Teresa Sharp. And this person, went on to have two different tattoo shops. And this, like all the different people that I've met along the way that are like, I love being able to see where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have gotten quite popular.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's weird to remember conversations, when they were just a few years in, and that kind of thing. And like, and I don't, just much like that lady that I pass and have a little conversation. I don't know how many of my conversations with people are why they went the direction that they did.
Yeah.
Because you never know. You never know what.
Yeah.
And
that's a beautiful part of service, like, it's it is those oasis stops that are very important, life affirming. And that's why I love doing it, is because like it could who knows what it really is, but my parents have owned a salon for 30 years. And, my dad has cut the hair of generations of people. So I've been able to see his impact on these things and on our community. And, just as far as a haircut, you don't think too much about it, but, he's developed friendships, connections with all these different professionals, been a staple of the community. We've done donation runs and things like that, but also like, there are people who their kid had their first haircut with my dad, and God forbid he's had experiences where children have passed and he's gone to their funeral and like been invited, and like these are core moments for people that like are huge, and you don't
Yeah.
take for granted, because it means so much. But
Yeah.
as a practitioner, you got to be kind of like, okay, like to your point, it's that
Yeah.
sketchy thing of
It's
like,
that sketchy line again too. Like how
yeah,
many times have people like, this just as like tattoo, just like I think tattoo and a salon are actually there's a lot of close things. And actually,
similarities.
I went to, there's in St. Cloud, there is tattoo and salon together. There's
Oh yeah, very cool.
two partnered people that they both work in the same space and have created this amazing uh, experience of a space, and they
Very
have both of
cool.
that because they have those similarities. And but how many times, like I can remember in my own life there was a point where I was just I have long hair, and I've had long hair the majority of my life, but I just prefer it. But there was a time where I went in and I'm just like, take it all off, just I'm take it all off. And I had like
Real
short,
short.
not even pixie cut. It was shorter. It was just like,
I'm
I need
over
all
it.
of this gone right now.
Yeah.
And
If it were me, I would have been like, okay, what happened?
you're right. But, and because, like there is that, there's a catharticness to, I think that's why there are a lot of times that people talk about like tattoo therapy, ink therapy and that kind of thing, because there is something cathartic about, I'm changing myself,
Mhm.
like you go in and you chop your hair off.
It's an attachment.
People are going to, yeah, you're going to view yourself different. People are going to view you different, just like with any kind of like body modification or tattoo, and you're going to view yourself different for a while, for those, even like those first few weeks, when now all of your focus is on the fact that you're itchy and you can't stand it and you got to pat it and everything. It's like
Yeah.
you're able to give your focus to something different for a little bit instead
Mhm.
of whatever it is that you're focusing on.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm just thinking about with that, the cool thing about it is when you are in that state of a fresh tattoo and an itchy tattoo, and you've got something, it's in a perpetual state of healing.
Mhm.
And so your focus is on healing.
Yeah.
And you might be healing your skin, but who's to say you're not,
Yeah.
that same energy of focus on healing is you're focusing on healing something in yourself, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
but I sure do love when we have, crazy flash sales and people just want some goofy looking thing for
Oh
fun too,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
fun
Those can be
tattoos are
fun
fun,
days. That
Yeah.
can be really fun days. They can really be terrible days too. Just as a quick segue, my good friend who I recently tattooed, her birthday was the 13th, Columbus Day.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that one of her tattoo appointments or one of her tattoo experiences, and we've actually for a couple years since this been growing this tattoo, but she did a flash sale and it was a Friday the 13th sale. She goes,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is, it's my birthday. I want to get a tattoo like on my birthday. And it was a big thing. And she said she went into the shop and she goes, it was like miles long. People were waiting. And she goes, oh, I
Yeah.
guess this is a huge thing. And she said, I finally got to my tattoo artist. And she said that this woman was acting like just this was like so beneath her time.
Oh
and,
man.
my friend Kathy, she was just like, hey, this is not just a get a tattoo day for me. You're making a grand assumption. She's like, today happens to be my birthday. She was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so I need you to get in here with me. I need you to like understand that this is huge for me. This isn't just a Friday the 13th, I'm gonna get a tattoo kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am I am realizing my birthday today. She goes, you know how many times in the history of my lifetime this has happened? I think it was only like 6 times in like 50 some years where it had landed on Friday the 13th. She's like, I need you to kind of cue in. She's like, do you know that when I get tattooed where I am, I'm with this person who would never, ever, 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 ever treat my forever the way you're treating this right now. Like, I think you need to meet my tattoo artist. She was just like,
and I mean, and I also can kind of understand where that tattoo artist was coming from too. And is kind of that mentality I've observed that sometimes, you know, tattoo artists have gotten to that point where they're just like, oh, I don't want to, I just, ugh.
That was your first
they
experience.
hate those kinds of things.
They blocked you.
Yeah, I know they did. And what did I do? It changed the course of my life. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and then there was a point while I was at that when, you know, there was a point where it was the end of the day and all of the artists were all walking up those stairs to leave for that day. And it was probably already like 9 years in or something. And I said, I wonder what my life would be like had I actually started like tattooing like 9 years ago or when I was first here. Like, I wonder what my life would be, you know, because they're to the point where the shop was booming. I knew the numbers of the shop. I saw the list of like how much everybody was making, and I was making $8 an hour.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder what my life would be like had I started, because I also had spent that whole day answering the phone saying, nope, we don't have time for a walk-in. What is it that you're looking to get done? Oh, yeah, nope, we don't have time for that. And it was all these little things because everybody else had already scheduled out their day with large things and had, you know, and so I will always appreciate the small tattoos because those are the ones that people they're testing you out. They're like, do I like this person's chairside manner? Do I like how this person is treating me with those little, just like your friend, you know, for her birthday? It's like, I'm never going back to that person for anything, you know? But
I think she changed her. I think from what she told me, she was like, the girl like kind of snapped back in.
All right, listeners, that is part 1. Again, this is a 2-part diary entry with Ilia. Go and do yourself a favor. Follow her. She's only bound to get better and better. She's at the beginning of this tattoo journey. She's a tattoo apprentice, a graphic designer. She also does astrology. So if you wanted a reading, she's already done so much for me. It was really cool. I feel confident she knows what she's talking about. Plus, it's fun. So if you are interested in something like that, reach out to Ilia. She's a really cool human being. I like her so much already. I know we could have talked for hours more, but you know, there's time for that ahead. We plan to keep coming together. Her dream is to be surrounded by artists. So if you are in the art world and community and you know, want to find a fellow traveler in that journey, she's somebody to look out for. So go follow her. Her IG handle is Ilia Sterling, as in sterling silver, and designs. So Ilia Sterling Designs is her IG. Go follow her there. Encourage her. Give her tips and tricks as a tattoo artist. But some encouragement would be great because we all grow. And as I mentioned to her on this podcast, I have interviewed people that when they interviewed, they hadn't even started yet into tattooing or their passion. They were just trying to get started. And now they're so far along that they're ahead of me. So I love that. And you have the opportunity to follow somebody from the ground up. And not only that, but it's Ilia herself independently, but then there's also her as a partnership and her as a working relationship with Elo. So this is a really unique partnership, this really unique situation to watch grow and manifest. I think they're in a really exciting phase of life together. They're taking on a lot. So love and prayers, blessings would be much appreciated towards them. Keep them in your heart. Thank you. Thank you, Ilia. You are beautiful and lovely, and I'm so grateful to have met you both. It's really been an honor, truly. And I hope we get to come together and make some cool stuff in the future. But this is one. This is our first creation. So thank you. Listeners, God bless you all. Have a very, very powerful week.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.